Hello, you're listening to the Para-Pup podcast, the podcast for paramedics in training. When life is on the line, paramedics answer the call. This podcast provides future EMS providers with information on current and trending topics to be equipped with the knowledge to save a life. Do you have what it takes? I'm your host, paramedic Clark Agnes. Welcome, Stretcher Jockeys, to another exciting episode of the Para-Pup podcast. Today, on episode 2, we're talking about straight out of patients. We're talking about burnout and EMS. I want to start us off with a quote. It's by Gandhi. It goes a little something like this. Keep your thoughts positive because your thoughts become your words. Keep your words positive because your words become your behavior. Keep your behavior positive because your behavior becomes your habits. Keep your habits positive because your habits become your values. And keep your values positive because your values become your destiny. And with that, I'd like to do an introduction of the folks we have around the table today.
My name's Nate. I've been in EMS for just about a year and a half.
My name's Sam. I've been in EMS for 2 years.
My name's Kate. I've been in EMT going on 4 years.
My name's Anthony. I've been a EMT for 9 years.
And my name's Ben. I've been an EMT for 3 years.
So guys, we're really here to talk about burnout. And this is an unusual topic for future paramedics to talk about, right? Normally we hear about burnout, we think about the old dogs who have been around the block for quite some time. But we know in every department, for every paramedic and EMT out there, there's a million different reasons why we have burnout in our industry. It's one of the most common career killers that we see. And the average we see most EMS providers not go beyond an initial licensure period of 3 years and renew because of the stress and burnout that goes along with our industry. A lot of things have to do with jobs, the people that we work with, the patients we deal with, long shift, too many shifts, overtime, bad equipment. Things never go the way that they're supposed to go. Patients and family who oftentimes become aggressive. There's countless other issues that quickly add up when we think about burnout in the EMS profession. So I want to kind of open the floor to you guys here for our first segment, and I want to know what are your thoughts about burnout? What is burnout, and what contributes to it in our industry?
So there's a lot of things. If any older medics are listening, they'll probably say, well, they've been in this too short. They don't know what they're talking about. And a lot of it comes from you guys. If I have worked with many medics and I've had some that are great, they're highly motivated, and I have some that just say how they hate this job, they hate this work, they say they're going to get out, they never do. That stuff spreads. It spreads to the new providers, and it just brings on the next legacy that's going to give negativity. A lot of this can be changed and make a difference by older providers, given that a good attitude with these new providers, even if they're just faking it.
Yeah, like Ben was saying, I think really a lot that has to do with it is people don't change the way they think. That's really a good way to really start. They have to change the way they think. And they're making fun of me right now because I said
We love you, Nate.
You really have to change the way you think, be more positive, have a good attitude, and I think that would really help, at least to start.
Nate, has anybody ever heard of Dr. Norman Vincent Peale?
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's a psychologist, right? And he studies a lot about the mindset and the power that a positive mindset has. And Nate, I think you're actually absolutely right when you talk about attitude, right? There's not much that you can really change in life. Sometimes, life kind of happens, but the one thing you always have control of is your attitude, is your perspective, is your positivity. And I think that lack of positivity in the industry we deal with, right? We're kind of caught in this weird conundrum of we're not quite public safety, right? We're not quite allied health. We're kind of the redheaded stepchild of public safety and allied health, and everything that kind of falls in between. So we oftentimes will get the short end of the stick when it comes to what our job entails. And I know there's no one sitting around the table here today that would tell you they're doing this because of money or because of pats on the back or because the amount of respect that you get, things of that nature. Because we don't. We're here because we want to help people, right? We want to save lives, make a difference when someone's having the worst day of their life. So positivity definitely has an impact on that. But what else? What else contributes to this stress that we deal with? Because we see it a lot.
I'd say low pay. I mean, city versus rural pay. Yeah, we get paid, some of us minimum wage, some of us more than minimum wage to start out. And I mean, we're dealing with people's lives here. We got someone dying in the back with us. We bring him back to life, and oh yeah, here's your $100 paycheck for the day. So it's like some of us got families that need a little bit more support. Ben, did you have something?
So there's a lot of common stuff you can say about to not be burned out that is textbook cookie cutter: eat better, sleep better, don't be stressed, all of that. I mean, this is EMS. This isn't realistic, and we're in America. That is a double whammy right there. I mean, it's still something that you have to continuously try, and 100% you will feel better if you eat better and you sleep better and you work out. Your body will feel better and you feel better mentally. But what I kind of want to ask some people, if you're on edge about the job you're working at and you kind of want to leave, you want to move on, I have some things I want to bring up that I feel like if a company did this or improved on it, if they came out the next day to you before you turned in that 2-week resignation, that you would say, I think I might stick around. I have a few lists that are just simple stuff. It doesn't deal with more money, but it would be nice for some of the providers to have. So I kind of want your guys' opinion on it. One is follow up with patients we drop off at the hospital. You may do a bunch of interventions. You drop them off, and that's the last you hear of them. You don't know if they lived or died, if that baby turned out fine. And it sticks with you. We all admit it. We don't talk about it a lot. And some say, oh, it doesn't matter to me. Well, it's still kind of deep down inside you. You want to know how that patient turned out.
Well, and I think that really does make a difference in your job satisfaction, because you're right. We don't see the end result. We make life-saving interventions, like Sam said. We do it because we want to do it, rather than because we're getting compensated or for external reasons for doing it. But the idea behind it is, when you follow up with the patient, you get that the emergency is over, you get a chance to interact on a more personal level, and you get the satisfaction of knowing that the care you did provide got that person to where they are now, and hopefully they're getting better as the case may be.
And that would be something fairly simple for your company or a med control to kind of follow up on with you, and I feel like that would help lower burnout a sense. It's one of the building blocks that will help lower it. You guys have any?
I mean, with the following up with your patients, it's also really a good idea to have, because you can really kind of see if you made it. You know, we all want to make a difference. That's why we do this job. We love to help. You know, we want to help people, and it really would help to follow up with the patients to be able to see, you know, okay, I really helped. I made a difference. You know, I did what I needed to do, you know, in order for this person to get to more definitive care, you know, to a trauma center or a stroke center or, you know, OB to have their child or whatever. So I think that really would help, you know, from the provider aspect of really, really securing the idea that you really made a difference and you really helped an individual.
What about better equipment? Like keeping updated equipment. Because, I mean, some of us have power cots, some of us have the manual stretchers that are old, that they sound like you gotta have WD-40 on your truck. That, I mean, just doing the extra lifting for us is a little bit of burnout, because it's more exercise that we gotta do. But, I mean, if we just have updated equipment, then it would be...
And I think there's a time and a place to pick a battle. But patient care is an area that kind of centers around everything that the EMS system does, right? It's all focused on patient care, patient-centered. So push for those things. If you have the ability to, you know, they're going to go, hey, we're going to order some new stuff. Well, we're going to order 10 more backboards. Why? Because we don't know. But push for it. If you know, hey, have we considered do we have a regular cot maintenance program? Do we have, what's the risk or liability with back injuries, right? That can be career-ending, and they're going to be paying workman's comp for you for forever and a day if you end up getting hurt to the point where you can't work. So it is an investment, and a lot of those things are truly what leads to burnout. An injury, right, can obviously cause major issues, but then just the psychological aspect of not having what you need in a crisis, that emotional stress, that really puts a lot on you.
To add on to that, I do understand some like royal companies can't necessarily afford that, but there are some companies that they should be making a conscious effort to get that better equipment. I haven't met a medic that's been doing this over 10 years that hasn't had a work-related surgery. It's non-existent from what I've seen. I think that if you take care of your employees, they'll give you better patient care, and you'll be able to keep them longer. If you give them manual cots and bad equipment and they hurt themselves on it, you're out of provider, and we're already too short for that.
And with that, newer equipment and everything, and making sure your employees are, have the newest stuff or the nicest stuff to be able to cut down on those work-related injuries. It's just another aspect of a company. The company has to take care of their employees because, at least in EMS, that's who takes the calls or the road crews, everything, the supervisors. Because if you don't do these normal things and take care of these equipment things and and these concerns that your road crews bring up, it really leads to a lot of turnover. A lot of people saying, "Well, I just can't physically do this job anymore," so they go do something else, and the company's left high and dry. Less people to take calls, less people to work the road.
There's two things that I think of when you say that, Nate. And first is burnout because of, like you said, lack of equipment, right? Not the company not investing in you, and I get that. Culture, I think, of an organization oftentimes will lead to burnout faster. So there is that aspect. The other part that I think is important when we talk about equipment and we talk about other things, we're really talking primarily about monetary things, right? Pay, equipment, that type of stuff. I think we have to recognize, I'll play devil's advocate, an employer, an agency, public, private, whatever the deal is, there's a bottom line that they have to be able to pay the bills, right? To pay their payroll. And unfortunately in EMS, reimbursement, right? Medicare, things of that nature, the big payers we typically would think about, and I shouldn't say big payers, but the big players, they don't reimburse us, right? You run an ambulance run and you expend $1,500, $2,000, $2,500 worth of time and materials and equipment and expertise, and you bill that, you may only get $500 back from the federal government, and unfortunately you can't go after the federal government saying give us more money. It's controlled. Now the hospitals don't have that problem. That's where some of these services that are hospital funded or are part of a larger health system, they have more access to funding. They have better access to pay. They have better access to equipment. They have better access to a number of things. But it really comes down to, you got to recognize that no matter if you have the Taj Mahal or you barely got something that holds together, it's all about that culture, that organization that leads to some of that burnout. Because if every day you're going to work and you go in and you don't want to be there, you have these emotions, these negative emotions, it's going to compound. Just like that quote from Gandhi said, right? These ideas of keeping your thoughts positive, because in the end, it's going to help you with your values and help with your future, your destiny.
You come into work, you're in that negative mood, and you get a compliment from your supervisor or someone higher up saying, "Hey, you did a good job." It's simple. It doesn't. I mean, it's not a whole lot, but
It's free.
It's free, and it can change your mood. But now most facilities, it's more about, hey, you did this wrong. Hey, fix this report. Hey, you didn't do your report on time. Hey, all this negative stuff, and it turns into a negative environment. People do need to be held accountable, which is a later subject, but it's the people that are doing a good job and all they get recognized is for the faults they have. That's going to turn them into a bad provider.
With the attaboys too, and saying it's positive, it can really reflect how you feel. It really can totally turn around your day you're having. You come in, you have these negative attitudes, supervisor compliments you on how you handled something, or even just compliments you on something you did.
You're in
outside of
uniform,
work.
you're
Exactly,
on time,
yeah.
you're here.
Yeah. And it really changes your mood, and I think it's kind of human nature that people love to be validated. They love to be, complimented, and it definitely can change your mood. It really is something that I don't think is taken advantage of enough in this specific profession. I think it should be more. It's something super easy, and it's just a way of thinking, really.
Completely agree. And if you look at the case down in Florida with a female provider was basically yelling and belittling this patient for waking her up and wasting her time, and that patient was having a true psychiatric emergency. I mean, this is getting a little far stretched. What if she got those compliments? What if she had a better work environment? All these little things added up. She may have took that person more serious. It can really affect your patient care. And all this stuff is free stuff that your company can do for you.
And I think a lot of it is your organization needs to have that mindset that it really is about we make a difference in people's lives by providing emergency care. We can make a difference in each other's lives by just being more positive, right? Just being able to share those
and more supportive.
More supportive.
And Clark, I agree with you on that. I mean, when we started class together, we were all kind of doing our separate ways. And I mean, Anthony said this, and somebody else said this a couple of weeks ago. We're becoming more supportive of each other as a class, and we're growing together as a class. I mean, yeah, we still have our differences, but we're one class. We're all in this. This is a brotherhood. This is not. No matter what agency you work for, no matter what.
It's funny you mentioned that, Sam, because to a certain extent, we always tote this idea that we are a family, that we're part of a brotherhood, or I don't want to use just brotherhood, but family kind of aspect, right? That we all have got each other's back, right? You've got your six type of thing. But in EMS, and in many health career fields, public safety included, we attack those that are new and positive, right? We have such a scarred facade to us as providers that we get someone that's bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, brand new, right? They got 15 pairs of scissors and 3 radios, and they're super geeked to be there. And what do?
Tear them down.
Yeah, we tear them down. We belittle them. We make fun. We think, well, they're new. They don't earn our trust. Yeah, they're new, but you have the ability to mold them into what you want, and a lot of people are ruining it. I've had terrible experiences and I've had good experiences, but sadly I've had more terrible. I've came out straight flat with some of my paramedics and said, hey, I have troubles with this stuff. I need help. If you see something I do wrong, tell me. I won't get upset. I want to learn. And a lot of them just say, okay, they go on with their day, and then they just belittle you. They never do anything to fix it, and I get it. We're all new providers, but you're molding us.
It's definitely easier to be complacent than it is to make a difference.
That is true.
And we have enough stressors already in our jobs, so we fall back to that naturally. We also fall back to that when it comes to the emotional stress that you deal with. We talked about the call types, the patient interactions that you have, the traumatic events that we're exposed to on a regular basis. This is one of the reasons why EMS providers and public safety providers have one of the highest rates of suicide associated with PTSD. And that's an industry problem. That's a problem that the industry needs to take on. But we've got to make sure that you keep in mind that your ability to internally deal with these things is not always the best way to handle it. It is okay. It is appropriate to talk to somebody. If you can't talk to your partner, maybe it's your spouse or significant other, and if you're not comfortable doing that, maybe it's somebody professionally. But we have to make sure that we get away from this complacency. When we find out someone's burnout or we have concerns, we just oftentimes say, whatever, it's not a big deal. On to the next call, right? Just back into the flow of the regular routine. But we don't see this. We don't see those signs.
And me being an optimistic person, seeing the glass half full and everything, I really am optimistic for this career field. And I get that going back to the whole, you tear people down that are, the newer ones, bright-eyed, they want to help, they want to be there. By, the older providers who have been doing this longer, they've seen everything, or they've been out doing everything. I get that. I think EMS as a profession has been led down or steered down this path, but I really do think that, with people becoming more and more aware of the burnout and the stress that comes with this job, that it's slowly turning back to be, a positive, more outgoing, and really better thinking, group of providers, profession. So I really have optimism for the future, and I think it'll definitely change.
Go ahead. I got to comment off guard.
I was just thinking that, while we're trained to pretty much respond to any situation, respond to, any patient in any circumstance, that, when it comes to our own well-being and our own training, we're lacking, especially in mental health.
Well, that's a bigger problem because mental health in general is not, there's such a stigma. We've talked about this in class. I get on my soapbox with this certain thing, but it's the idea that we don't treat mental illness like it should be, right? We treat it like it's you should be cast out from society.
We just kind of push it under the rug.
Right, rather than dealing with it as a medical condition. But go ahead, Kate.
But, kind of going along with that, I think, you have those calls that stick with you, especially the traumatic ones. And, you should get help, but you keep thinking, oh, I'm going to be okay, till eventually it just kind of blows up in your face.
Yeah.
I have calls that that keep me up at night. I still think about them years later, and especially my first traumatic calls, the first calls that you ran on, your first cardiac arrest, your first, childbirth, your first pediatric death, stuff like that. It sticks with you no matter what. And we don't know how to handle that usually. And that's what makes it tough, because we're expected to just be able to respond all the time and be okay.
I think that's the one flaw in the EMS system, is that the EMS system is always on, and we don't take time as a profession, as an industry, to recognize that providers need to turn off the pager. They need to turn off the radio. They need to be able to disconnect from their job so they can recoup, rebuild, reorganize, whatever you want to call it, but get ready to do the job again. But unfortunately, the nature of the business is you're got to be around all the time, right? And 7 days a week, 365.
If you don't do that, at that point, you're a ticking time bomb.
And unfortunately, we don't recognize it.
Right.
We don't put an emphasis on it.
And it's not until it's too late.
Mm-hmm. I want to take us to our next segment, Nuggets of Knowledge. I'd like just to go around briefly and see if there's any nuggets of knowledge that anybody would like to kind of share. The one that I want to start us off with, my nugget of knowledge, is really going to be making sure that you check in with yourself regularly. It's easy to get caught up in the job. You're going to be going through the motions, trying to get through the work, getting home, getting back when you're supposed to be scheduled. Sometimes it's working overtime. Tune into yourself and recognize when you're becoming stressed. If you recognize that when stress levels are building or a situation is becoming unattainable, and you manage it before it gets out of hand, you're gonna be in a better circumstance. That kind of builds on what you were saying, Kate. Is try to keep an eye on it yourself and keep an eye on the people around you. That's kind of my nugget. So make sure you're checking in with your partner, checking in with yourself regularly to see if you're managing stress appropriately.
Taking the time off of work, going golfing, doing something de-stressing, or that's going to add a lot more stress. I go golfing with my coworkers probably once a month. We don't talk about work on the golf course. Just golf, have a good time, stress out about golf, and then nothing else. And then we see each other at work. So like Clark said, just find something that you can do with your coworkers outside of work. Just leave work at work. Go build your life. Heck, go take a family vacation if you need to.
I think one of the things that's real important, especially as new providers, right, as you're all becoming paramedics, is going to be the ability for you to take time off, right? There's such a push of I got to get more experience. I want to run more calls. I'm going to pick up 60 hours of work this week and 20 hours of overtime. It's those things that you got to be careful with because you're new. Don't burn yourself out before you get started.
My nugget of knowledge would probably be, you got to find a hobby. This job, you need something that takes the stress off of you, whether it's family or friends, but you got to find something past that. One thing is I love continuing my education. It sounds lame, but that's one of my favorite hobbies. I watch SciShow all the time. I watch all this stuff, not even related to medical stuff. It's one of those things that make me happy. Another one's disc golfing. I love to grab a bunch of beer, go out with my friends, go disc golfing in the woods. It's a great time. Everyone has to have their something to de-stress themselves.
In a healthy way.
In a healthy way. No drugs, cocaine, anything that ends with "een."
Anthony, you're sitting over there kind of quiet. What's going through your mind here when you think about preventing burnout?
Well, 9 years experience, I've always tried to find something to de-stress. Sometimes I'll actually like take time to be by myself and just basically empty my mind, or go hang out with friends. Or my favorite thing to do, and I don't know if this is really considered healthy, I'm a little bit of a gun nut. I love to shoot firearms. It's one of my favorite pastimes to do.
America.
Yeah. So I'll go to the gun range. I'll go shoot with friends and just de-stress. For some reason, with me, the ability just to shoot at a target, or have contests with my friends, like play Battleship or see who can hit the furthest target or something along those lines. That's always kind of fun. So
For me, it's don't be afraid to ask for help. You know, I mean, you have to learn to know yourself and know your limitations. And so, I mean, if you push it, I mean, you can always reach out and get professional help. You can talk to your family, talk to your friends. You know, they understand it for the most part. And another thing I found is an article written by a doctor. I can't pronounce his name because I know I'll butcher it. But it's something called Wiser. And it's a web-based implementation of science for enhancing resilience. It's an evidence-based web intervention aimed at promoting resilience and decreasing burnout in healthcare providers. And so it's all science-based, and I actually just signed up for it myself. And so it's going and doing research on everything and how they can best prevent burnout.
Well, you think about, we talk a lot about task saturation and team performance, right? The crew resource management, team steps initiatives that we take here for school. But when we talk about things like a sentinel event or the reasons why things happen, why an accident or a mistake or an error occurs, burnout is probably that one big section that gets in the way, because it clouds your judgment, your perspective, your patience, your behaviors, I mean, you name it. And it opens the gate up to a lot of other issues that can truly affect our patients, people that we're caring for, right? We're here to save lives, but burnout can really affect that. I just really want to briefly talk about managing burnout a little bit. And I know, Ben, you kind of touched on some of this a little bit. I just want to give you 5 nuggets to walk away with when it comes to managing your burnout. The goal is to keep your stress levels as low as you can for as long as you can by maintaining and managing acute stressors as they arise, right? We know that the idea of being an EMT or a paramedic is naturally just going to be stressful for you, but you can help control it by a couple of things. One is paying attention to your sleep. That was a big one for me in the field. Is when I wouldn't get enough sleep, I get hangry and sleepy. It's a bad day, right? So, and that's what we work in EMS. But make sure you're getting good sleep. Not what we think of as sleep in EMS, right? Sitting up in an ambulance in a parking lot. That's not good sleep. So make sure you're focusing on how you can get the best quality rest that you need. Eat well, right? Don't eat from a paper bag. That's probably the best thing I can help you with there. What you eat will represent how you feel. So if you eat healthy, you'll feel healthy. If you eat fat, sloppy stuff, you're going to feel fat and sloppy. Engage in some type of stress reduction activities, right? Like Bennett talked about, disc golf or golfing or riding a bike, playing a musical instrument, whatever it might be, something that's going to help you there. And then, Kate, you totally hit that nail on the head, is ask for help when you need it. You cannot be too good or too big to be able to have any issues related to that. You've got to be able to step up and say, I need help. We are the helpers, but sometimes the helpers need help as well. Final thoughts?
There's one last subject I wanted to talk on. This one's huge for me. So, one of the best things that I would like to see is a better training program and better continuing education. A big one. We're short on people. We're going to cut your training down and put you on the road. Best of luck. They're failing to set us up for success, which is a huge thing. But I'm going to do all of this work to be the best I can be.
You got to remember, you're in control of your destiny. If you're working for an organization you don't want to work for, don't work for them.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't be a part, typically, don't just come with the problem, come with the solution, right? To a problem. That's going to help you be successful. But don't be afraid. There's such a demand for paramedics right now and EMS providers that you have that opportunity to go to those places. But remember, it's all about cultivating culture. Culture doesn't happen overnight. Change doesn't happen overnight. But cultivating it, being involved in it, having a voice, and being positive about what experiences you can be positive about, because it's contagious.
That's true.
And with that, another great episode of Para-Pup Podcast bites the dust. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe below. And remember, stretcher jockeys, if it's wet, sticky, and not yours, don't touch it. See you next time.